There's a question being asked more often now in the villages than ever before. Agents who've been selling here for a decade say it started showing up about a year ago, quietly at first, and now it comes up in almost every serious buyer conversation. It's not about the golf courses, it's not about the tax benefits or the weather. It's more specific than that. And if you're thinking about buying a home here or if you already own one, this question should matter to you too. Because what's happening in the villages right now isn't just a policy change, it's a shift in what makes a retirement community valuable in the first place. And when the foundation shifts even slightly, everything else follows. The Villages has always been sold as certainty. That's the product. Not just sunshine and golf carts, but predictability. A place where retirees don't have to worry anymore. Where the systems work, the amenities are maintained, and life is structured in a way that removes risk. For decades, that's exactly what it delivered. Dozens of golf courses, controlled gates, neighbors who look like you, live like you, think like you. It became the largest retirement community in the country because it promised something most places can't: insulation from the chaos of the outside world. But insulation only works if the systems holding it together don't crack. And right now, one of those systems is being tested in a way it hasn't been before. Most people moving to the villages focus on the visible things: the recreation centers, the social clubs, the low property taxes. Those are easy to measure, easy to compare. But there's something else that doesn't show up in the brochures, something that quietly determines whether a buyer actually pulls the trigger or walks away. It's not romantic, it's not exciting, but it's essential. And that thing is healthcare access. Not just having a hospital nearby. That's table stakes. What matters is whether the system is stable, whether it's growing with demand, and whether families trusted enough to let their 70-year-old parents move 2 states away. Because here's the truth most people don't say out loud. Retirees don't buy homes in the villages alone. Their adult children are part of the decision. And those adult children are asking harder questions now than they were 5 years ago. They're asking who owns the hospitals. They're asking whether emergency care is expanding or contracting. They're asking what happens if the system gets sold, consolidated, or restructured. They're asking these questions because they've seen what happens in other retirement-heavy regions when healthcare infrastructure doesn't keep pace with population growth. They've watched waiting times stretch. They've seen specialists leave. They've heard stories about delays that mattered. So when the dominant healthcare provider in and around the villages began making moves that suggested consolidation and restructuring, it didn't just register as a business transaction. It registered as a risk, a quiet one, the kind that doesn't make headlines but does make buyers pause. And that pause is where home values begin to shift. Here's what most sellers don't realize yet. The market in the villages has been strong for so long that it feels permanent. Demand has been relentless. Prices climbed steadily. Inventory stayed tight. But that strength was built on confidence, not just climate. Confidence that the lifestyle would stay intact. Confidence that the systems would scale. Confidence that this wasn't just a place to retire, but a place to age safely. When confidence cracks, it doesn't announce itself. Buyers don't suddenly stop touring homes, and they just hesitate. They ask for more time. They negotiate harder. They compare options they weren't comparing before. And sellers who expected a quick close start wondering why offers feel softer than they used to. This is already happening in pockets of the market. Not across the board, not dramatically, but enough that experienced agents are noticing. Buyers are asking about hospital proximity in ways they didn't before. They're requesting information about specialist availability. They're checking how far certain procedures are from their potential home. These aren't panicked buyers. These are informed buyers. And informed buyers are harder to close. The timing of this matters. The villages is no longer just attracting early retirees in their 60s who are still active, still healthy, still a decade away from needing serious medical care. The demographic is shifting. People are aging in place. The average age is creeping upward. And as that happens, healthcare isn't a future consideration anymore. It's a present one. At the same time, Florida's healthcare system is under pressure. Not unique to the villages, but felt acutely here because of the concentration of older residents. There are more retirees per capita in this region than almost anywhere else. That means more demand for cardiologists, oncologists, orthopedic surgeons, more demand for emergency services, more demand for long-term care infrastructure. When a healthcare system serving this kind of population goes through ownership changes, staffing realignments, or policy shifts, it doesn't just affect patient care, it affects perception. And perception drives real estate decisions more than most people want to admit. Here's the part that should concern current homeowners. If buyer confidence erodes, even modestly, it won't show up immediately in listing prices. Sellers will still list high, but homes will sit longer. Price reductions will become more common. And the gap between what sellers expect and what buyers are willing to pay will widen. That gap is where value gets lost. Not in a crash, not in a panic, just in a slow, grinding recalibration that feels unfair to sellers who believed their home was still in a red-hot market. And it's not just individual buyers who are watching this. Institutional investors have been circling the villages for years, buying properties as rentals, long-term holds, bets on continued demand. But institutional money is cold money. It moves on data, not emotion. If healthcare instability starts showing up in longer days on market, softer comps, or shifting buyer sentiment, that money pauses. And when institutional buyers pause, it amplifies the slowdown. This isn't speculation. This is how retirement real estate works. The entire value proposition depends on systems retirees can't control but have to trust. If one of those systems feels uncertain, the trust wobbles. And trust is the invisible hand that holds pricing up. So, what does this mean if you're thinking about buying in the villages today? It means you should be asking the same questions informed buyers are already asking. Not just about the home, but about the infrastructure around it. Not just about amenities, but about access to care. Not just about today, but about 5 years from now when you're older, less mobile, and more dependent on what's nearby. And if you already own a home here, it means understanding that the market you bought into may not be the same market you sell into. The speed, the certainty, the premium pricing, all of it was built on a narrative of stability that's now being quietly questioned. Not loudly, not everywhere, but enough that it matters. The Villages is still the largest retirement community in America. It's still growing, it's still attracting buyers. But the calculus is changing. The questions are harder. The answers are less certain. And in real estate, uncertainty is expensive. What's happening here isn't unique. It's a preview of what every aging, amenity-driven community will eventually face as demographics shift and infrastructure is tested. The Villages just got there first. And because it got there first, it's the one buyers are watching most closely. The question isn't whether the Villages will collapse. It won't. The question is whether it will remain the safest, most dependable option for retirees who now have more information, more caution, and more choices. And right now, for the first time in years, that question no longer has an automatic answer.